Happening tonight, a high-stakes vote in the House. Party leaders are trying to shore up enough votes to pass the debt ceiling deal. Plus, intense police body camera video captures terrifying moments of a crash on a Georgia highway. This is News 3 Now at noon. Good afternoon, I'm Mark Kane. Thanks for tuning in. A Madison man was arrested after Monona police say he sped away from an officer on the Beltline at more than 100 miles per hour. An officer was monitoring traffic at Southtown Drive just before 10 o'clock last night when they saw a man driving 80 miles an hour. When the officer tried to pull him over, the man slowed down and pulled onto the shoulder, but then sped off, heading east at 100 miles an hour. The 39-year-old was eventually found and arrested in the 800 block of Brandy Road. He is facing tentative charges. A Madison man was sentenced to 20 years in prison after pleading guilty to stabbing 3 people at a bar last spring. 50-year-old Julius Goodwin pleaded guilty to 3 counts of reckless injury earlier this year. As part of a plea, a misdemeanor bail jumping charge and the use of a dangerous weapon charges were dropped. Goodwin was also ordered to spend 13 years on extended supervision following his prison sentence. Let's head out to the weather patio now. Meteorologist Jacob Montesano has a look at our first warn forecast. Warming up out there.
Yeah, right now it definitely feels pretty hot outside. Temperatures are already well into the 80s, but unfortunately, I have to talk about another air quality alert in effect for really all of southern Wisconsin, and this will stay in effect until 11 p.m. this evening. Once again, elderly or young individuals, as well as individuals with lung disease, should avoid prolonged outdoor activity or prolonged physical exercise. Unfortunately, this looks like it may continue for the next couple of days, but as far as the temperatures, it's definitely very warm. I personally wouldn't call this nice. I know a lot of people enjoy these temperatures, but right now it definitely feels hot outside. 86 degrees in Madison. Parts of our area are already near 90. Now, my guess is parts of our area will likely get into the 90s today. Madison, it will be pretty close. Upper 80s is the forecasted high, but we are expected to see some scattered storms in the afternoon. Now, right now, we aren't seeing any of that on Doppler track, but we could see some storms develop over the next few hours. They're mostly going to be for Dane County and places to the south and east, with western counties only seeing a very slight chance of storms. These also are going to be very scattered, so even eastern counties may not see rain, but it could rain pretty heavily for a short period of time. It's still a bit unclear as just where these storms are going to develop, but it does appear that it will be around Dane County and places to the south and east. But this will mostly be for the late afternoon and early evening. By sunset, it does look like these storms will have cleared out. But there's another chance of storms tomorrow. I'll talk more in detail about this coming up later in the show, and temperatures are going to remain hot. I'll have all the details later.
All right, we'll check back, Jacob. Thank you. The DNR is warning of elevated fire risk as those temperatures rise across much of Wisconsin. Right now, most of the state, 58 counties, are under a high fire risk. The DNR and fire departments responded to more than 90 wildfires across the state last week alone. Officials say greener foliage has helped crews quickly stop the fires, but recent dry weather and low humidity have raised the fire risk. To prevent more fires from sparking, the DNR plans to suspend burned permits for areas that are under increased fire threat. And all across Wisconsin, the recent dry spell is taking a toll on farmers and their crops. Corn and soybean planted less than a month ago are having a tough time in the dry soil. In Waterford, the Melchine family farm doesn't use irrigation. They've been hit especially hard this season. The family says without rain, advances in farming genetics, they're keeping the crops alive.
The soybeans are essentially at a standstill right now, and that's what the genetics have done, is they allow the plant to just survive, waiting for that rain to come. We're just entering a very crucial time to get some rain, otherwise we're going to start cutting into what the potential yields are.
Rows of corn are popping up despite the dry spell, but the family says genetic engineering can only go so far. A Kentucky bank where a deadly mass shooting took place will permanently relocate. Old National Bank says it's moving elsewhere in downtown Louisville in respect to those who were killed. On April 10th, a 25-year-old employee opened fire, killing 5 people. The bank is expected to reopen in its new location in late June. All eyes are on the House of Representatives as the bipartisan deal to raise the debt ceiling goes to a full vote tonight. Natalie Brand has the latest.
I am undecided, but I'm ready to hear what the White House has to say.
On Capitol Hill Wednesday, House Democrats huddled behind closed doors for a briefing with White House negotiators before a high-stakes vote tonight.
I'm confident that we will avoid a catastrophic default.
There are just days to go before the Treasury Department says the U.S. will run out of money to pay its bills. The vote on today's deal would lift the debt limit past the 2024 election. And new projections by the Congressional Budget Office indicates it would cut spending by $1.5 trillion over a decade.
Trillions and trillions of dollars in debt for crumbs, for a pittance.
Some conservatives are putting up a fight, vowing to vote no. There are also concerns from progressive Democrats.
We also need to hold our ground and stand up for the most vulnerable Americans.
The bill squeaked out of the House Rules Committee late last night with 2 Republicans voting against it. Even with GOP hardliners opposed, Speaker McCarthy has signaled to reporters the votes are there.
No, it matters. It's going to become law.
If the bill passes the House, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer has put lawmakers on notice.
Senators should be prepared to move on this bill quickly.
That he wants to bring it to the Senate floor as soon as possible. Natalie Brand, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
And House lawmakers are expected to go through a process of offering and voting on amendments to the bill before a final vote, which is expected sometime later tonight. This next story serves as a good reminder on why it's so important to move over for emergency vehicles. Take a look at this body cam footage. Deputies in Georgia were responding to the scene of a crash when this startling scene unfolded. A car hits a tow truck and goes airborne 120 feet into the air. The deputy rushed to help the 21-year-old driver who was hurt but survived the accident. A deputy was also injured by flying debris. County officials are using the shocking incident to highlight the state's move over law, which urges drivers to slow down or move over a lane when approaching emergency vehicles. The FDA wants to make it easier to understand how to safely take prescription medication. The proposal is a one-page guide that would include the drug's name, what it's used for, safety information, common side effects, and directions on how to take it. The FDA says nearly 75% of Americans have had trouble taking their medications as directed, and using medications incorrectly contributes to nearly 25% of hospital admissions and approximately 125,000 deaths each year. The FDA has also issued a warning about approved treatment for diabetes and weight loss. Ozempic and Wegovy have been on the FDA's drug shortage list since last year. When drug shortages happen, sometimes compounded or mixed versions of the drugs are prepared, but the agency has not reviewed those compound versions for safety, effectiveness, or quality. The FDA says it's received reports of adverse effects in people who've used compound semaglutide. Well, there's more to come on News 3 Now at noon. Minnesota becomes the latest state to legalize recreational marijuana. That story and more coming up in the Money Watch report.
You're watching News 3 Now at noon.
A New York federal appeals court has issued a ruling to shield the billionaire Sackler family from lawsuits tied to their business Purdue Pharma and the role its drug OxyContin played in fueling the opioid crisis. The decision allows for a bankruptcy deal to resolve cases brought by states, victims, and other claimants. The family agreed to pay around $6 billion as part of the settlement. The company will also restructure and use some of its profits to fund treatment and other programs to fight addiction. And Minnesota is now the 23rd state to legalize recreational marijuana. The state's governor, Tim Walz, signed a bill yesterday that will allow adults 21 and older to possess marijuana, create a regulatory framework for cannabis retailers and manufacturers, and expunge low-level marijuana offenses. The new law takes effect on August 1st. That's your CBS News Money Watch report. For more, log on to cbsmoneywatch.com. At the CBS Broadcast Center, I'm Chanel Call.
Let's check out Wall Street at the noon hour. The Dow Industrials down 224 points. The NASDAQ off 104. The S&P 500 down 32. Our call for action volunteers are in the building, taking your consumer complaints and taking action on your behalf. Volunteers are here every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, so you can call for action right now at 608-270-2833 or submit a claim anytime at channel3000.com/call for action. Well, next at noon, Pam has today's egg prices, and Jacob has the latest forecast. And then today on Live Before, we're going behind the wheel with Harvey Briggs in the 2023 VW Golf R 20th Anniversary Edition. Buckle up.
The Farm Report is sponsored by Blaine's Farm and Fleet.
Let's check in with Pam Yankee now from the Midwest Farm Report, doing a little rain dance over there.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, definitely. You know, Melchine's, Kevin Melchine is the president of the FS board, headquartered in Bloomington. And so he knows that he's hearing it from not just his family, but across the countryside, the dry weather conditions. Before we get to the latest crop progress report, just take a look at some pictures from over the weekend at the Greene County Breakfast on the Farm that happened in just outside of Monroe. We had the crowning of the Greene County royalty that took place. The two different candidates, you see their names on the board. Then Maya Rhoda from Judah was named the Greene County Dairy Queen, and she was joined in the presentation by the current Wisconsin Fairest of the Fair that's from Greene County, and that is Charlene Swedlin, also from Judah. So some nice folks that were on hand on stage for the Greene County Breakfast on the Farm on Saturday. So let's talk a little bit about the latest crop progress report. As far as Wisconsin is concerned, like the Melchines pointed out, corn is starting to come through the soil surface. 90% of our corn has already been planted, and of the group that's planted, it looks like we've got about 52% that are coming through the soil surface. Soybeans, 82% of the soybeans are planted, and that's about 6 days ahead of last year. 93% of expected oat crop also in the ground. And now we start watching for the moisture. Winter wheat already feeling the downward impact of that moisture situation out there. Right now, 81% of our winter wheat is good to excellent. That's a 3 percentage point drop from last week. Now, despite the dry weather that we've got here in Wisconsin, across the countryside, not necessarily that case in some of the plain states where they've been picking up rain. So that's why our commodities continue to trend lower. Today in Chicago, barrel cheese was up 1/4 cent at 1.49 3/4. 40-pound block cheese was down a penny at 1.42. Double A butter up 2.5 at 2.45 per pound. So there we go. Yeah, I'll do rain dance. I'll do whatever I can do. Find me a voodoo doll, whatever it is, because, yeah, we're at that stage now where we really could use a measurable drink of water.
Wash the car, hang out the laundry.
Yeah, yep, that's right. Good ideas.
All right, Dan, thank you.
A
carpenter from Minnesota is using his woodworking skills to help rebuild the famous Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris. A devastating fire tore through the roof 4 years ago. Ian Lee shows us how the project is coming along.
When flames engulfed Notre Dame in 2019, the French president vowed to resurrect the iconic cathedral within 5 years. 4 years in, architects are celebrating a huge step toward restoration, raising a portion of the new roof.
You can see through the plumb bob.
With help from Minnesota carpenter Peter Henriksen, who says it feels like a trip back in time. He's using some of the same tools and techniques of his medieval predecessors.
I think it's amazing that people in 1100 could do all this.
While it would be faster to use power tools, workers say doing it by hand pays tribute to the craftsmanship of the cathedral's original builders.
It's a little mind-bending sometimes. Think about there were medieval carpenters cutting this, basically the same joint 900 years ago.
Artisans are using some modern technology to speed up reconstruction, like these computer images, to ensure their hand-chiseled beams fit together perfectly.
The traditional carpenters had a lot of that in their head. They had sketches.
Henriksen is working alongside mostly French craftsmen and says it's an honor to help bring this historic landmark back to life. Ian Lee, CBS News.
And French officials cut down more than 1,000 historic oak trees in some 200 forests across the country to rebuild the cathedral's fire-ravaged roof and iconic spire. Jacob's back now with the complete forecast, and it's hot, hot, hot.
Yeah, it is going to remain hot really for the next several days. Highs will be right around 90 degrees until Saturday, possibly even Sunday as well. And we also have the chance for some thunderstorms in the afternoon, both today and tomorrow, as well as Friday. It's also going to be pretty humid, and this will continue through the weekend as well. So although it will be humid, the chances of rain will be relatively light. Now for this afternoon, 88 degrees is the forecasted high, partly sunny, a chance of an afternoon thunderstorm. Let me talk about that right now. Here's a look at Doppler track. We are seeing mostly dry conditions across Wisconsin, but really these storms could develop over the next few hours, especially to the south and east of Madison, right in the southeastern portion of Wisconsin. And then throughout the later afternoon, we could see some more storms fire up closer to Dane County and places to the south. But for a lot of locations for Dane County and places to the east, it really will be a hit or miss. We could see some heavy rain, but we could see no rain at all. And places off to the west will likely not see any rain, maybe a very small pop-up shower or storm. This is not going to last very long. By sunset tonight, most of the rain will have cleared out. But tomorrow there's a greater chance for some storms, and this time it looks like it will impact our entire area. So right around 2 to 4 p.m. tomorrow afternoon, we will see the storms fire up, and they will last a bit longer, and they will be a little bit more widespread than the storms today. My guess is most of our area will see some rainfall at least tomorrow. But once again, it looks like it will still be a hit or miss, as some of these storms will produce some heavy rainfall, but parts of our area may not see any rain at all. Now the storms tomorrow will clear out a bit later than the storms today, so we may still see some lingering showers and storms for sunset tomorrow. Now this is a very rough estimate as far as precipitation goes, because as I've mentioned, this will really be a hit or miss kind of rainfall, where the heavy rain will impact parts of our area, but not all of our area. So some of these numbers could be a lot higher or a lot lower, but a good around quarter of inch to half inch is expected. For tonight will be very mild with lows only in the mid 60s. And then tomorrow we'll see temperatures very similar to today, upper 80s, possibly lower 90s with some scattered thunderstorms. Like I mentioned, tomorrow there's a greater chance of storms than what we will see today. As we go into Friday, we're going to see similar conditions with hot temperatures, a chance of an afternoon storm. Highs will be right around 90 degrees. My guess is at least one of these days we will hit 90 degrees. Now we are going to be dry over the weekend, but the temperatures are going to be pretty similar. Highs will then be in the lower 80s for next week, so still pretty warm. Small chances of rain. It looks like we could get a brief cool front from Monday night into Tuesday, and that will bring the temperatures down to around 80 degrees. But for the most part, we are still looking very mild, and for the most part, we are looking very dry as well. You know, these afternoon storm chances aren't going to be extreme. We're not going to see a big widespread rain event, but hopefully we do see quite a few thunderstorms develop. They don't look to be severe, although it's definitely possible, and just, you know, hopefully we get a good amount of rain from this system. But for those that like the hot temperatures, I assume you are enjoying it. I know me and you, we're not in that group, but
no, we're not.
It looks like it'll be like this for quite a bit. You know, next week will be a bit cooler, but still in the lower 80s.
All right, fingers crossed for some rain.
Yep.
All right, thank you, Jacob. There is more to come on News 3 Now at noon. Up next, Howard's got the perfect drink for this week's warm weather in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen.
As it starts getting hotter week after week, we're all looking for ways to stay cool and hydrated. We have just the thing to help you out. We promise. With the weather getting hotter, we're looking for ways to stay cool and hydrated. With that said, we came up with a fun spin on iced tea that I think you're gonna love. The first thing we want to do is bring a pot of water to a boil. Once it does, we toss in some tea bags and let that steep for a bit. After the tea is just the right strength, out come the tea bags, and we add some sugar, fresh lemon juice, and give it a stir until the sugar dissolves. After this cools for a bit, we'll pour it into a 9x13 dish and pop it in the freezer to set up. By now, you might be saying to yourself, where is he going with this? Okay, let me show you. At this point, we take a fork and begin shaving our frozen lemony iced tea, like this. Think of this as the freshest tasting snow cone ever. And when you serve this in glasses as a fun summery change of pace dessert, or as a way to beat the steaming hot days of summer, I know you'll be saying, now this makes sense. To get the recipe for what we call lemony frozen iced tea, simply visit our website. I'm Howard with Kelly in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen, where today we found a refreshingly icy way for you to say, ooh, it's so good.
Have to mix up a batch of those for the next few days.
Yeah, we definitely might need some of that because high temperatures are going to be right around 90 degrees for the next several days until at least Saturday, possibly even Sunday as well. And we do have a few chances of afternoon showers and storms. Today, it does appear to be a relatively low chance, especially for places to the west. You folks will probably not see any rain, but Dane County and places to the south and east could see some scattered showers and storms this afternoon. Tomorrow, there's a greater chance for some storms, more widespread across our area. My guess is much of our area will see rain at least tomorrow, but it is going to be dry to start the day. And Friday, another chance of rain with high temperatures near 90. The weekend is looking pretty dry, but still very warm. And then we will see a bit of a cold front Monday night into Tuesday, which will cool things down, but still going to be in the lower 80s. So it is going to remain warm the next 7 days.
Not much cooler.
No, not at all.
Jacob, thank you. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you back here at 4 o'clock. Have a great afternoon.
Get more local news now with Channel 3000 Plus, our free digital streaming service, bringing you area news and info from the News 3 Now team. Download it today.